Ludovico Spelletano had conjured the devil in order to have the devil use his body. Welcome to Friday Night Ghost Frights from Haunted Road Media. I'm author and ghost story Mike Ricksecker. Explore with us. There have been many demon and devil tales throughout the centuries, and of course the topic has become very popular in our culture and society today. Let's take a look at some of the historic cases. First, we're going to start with the story of Roland Doe, or Robbie Mannheim, and you may recognize this more so by the fact that it is the story that inspired the Exorcist book and film. Of course, many of the details were changed, including the gender of the boy to a girl for the movie. During the late 1940s, this boy was afflicted in his Maryland home, purportedly after his aunt passed away. His aunt had been a spiritualist and had introduced him to the Ouija board, which is what is claimed to be the source of the affliction. After she passed, strange noises were being heard about the house. Objects were being moved and even levitating while he was around. The boy's family moved to the St. Louis area to get out from the Washington, D.C. metro area, believing that getting further away would help the boy and his troubles. However, the problems persisted, and an exorcism was eventually performed at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in South St. Louis. During this time, there was shaking of the bed, objects flying about, scratch marks being carved into the boy with words that were showing up upon his body. After the exorcism was over and deemed a success, the boy purportedly went on to live a normal life. St. Louis University has an entire page dedicated to what went on. That's a much more modern case, but historically there have been reports of these occurrences across the centuries, including one in Oaklands, which is one of the Snowden homes in Laurel, Maryland, in which during the 1700s there was a particular game of cards being played between Richard Snowden and three of his friends that was rather boisterous. They were having a great time rolling right on through the night. However, a messenger showed up at the door and one of the friends was being called away. They did not want the night to end. They were having too good of a time, but their friend had to go. They were so disappointed that the three stood and said, "We would play with the devil if he took your place." Well, shortly thereafter, a traveler came to the door and asked, "May I take the place?" Well, they were excited to get the game back on. Sure enough, they did invite the traveler in, and they played on through the night and into the next day, and even into the next night. It was that thrilling of a game. They were having such a great time. However, the traveler, the stranger, was winning, and he kept winning, and he was on such a streak of luck that he won it all. Well, the stranger collected his winnings and began walking out the door. And the other three, dismayed, as the stranger walked out the door, picked up a whiff of brimstone in the air and spotted a tail peeking out from under his cloak. There's also the story of David Glatzel, which after his family moved into a new house, he started exhibiting strange behavior. Suddenly gained 60 pounds in just a couple of months out of nowhere. But then he began speaking in tongues and randomly convulsing, started levitating, and wounds were showing up upon his body out of nowhere. Multiple exorcisms performed upon David claimed that there were 43 demons possessing him. But things got even worse when David's sister's fiancé, Arne, decided to taunt the demons and demand that they possessed him instead. Arne then also began to suffer some of the same trances and fell into bouts of anger. He wrecked his car one time, said he didn't remember any of that, and then he suddenly got into an argument with his landlord and stabbed him to death, again claiming that he remembered none of it. It was the first high-profile murder case in America in which demons were used as a defense, which of course was ultimately defeated. The 1967 case of Anneliese Michel was the case in which was used as the inspiration for the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Anneliese was suspected of being possessed because of her aversion to religious icons and symbols. She would exhibit strange behavior like eating coal and spiders. She even bit the head off of a bird once. After undergoing nearly 70 exorcisms, she eventually starved to death, weighing only 68 pounds at the time of her death. Anneliese was refusing to eat, and it said that the demons inside her simply were angered by all the exorcisms that were being thrown their way and caused her to not want to eat anymore. Her parents and the two priests that performed the exorcisms were sentenced to 6 months in jail for negligent manslaughter. And then there's an interesting piece of text that's said to be written by the devil himself. First appeared in 1523. Purportedly, Ludovico Spelletano had conjured the devil in order to have the devil use his body and write down answers to questions that he wanted to ask him. Satan apparently was put off by this notion and took the pen from the Italian's hand and wrote the text himself. However, it's completely indecipherable and nobody knows what it says. However, you can tell by looking at it that it was very highly inspired by pitchforks. To this day, the text is still indecipherable, but some suggest that this was actually written in the primeval language of Eden. These are but a handful of the cases that have been reported over the millennia. There are many, many more, and we'll cover more as we go along. I'm Mike Ricksecker. Until next Friday night.